That you guys carved out this time for yourself. And this is a busy time. December is a stressful, busy time for everybody. And I think between present buying and trying to squeeze in the end of the year into the last couple of weeks, there's this pandemic going on that I don't know if anyone has heard about. And so that's adding extra mental stress to everybody. So I know it is harder than ever to carve out time for yourself for mental, emotional, educational, all of that development. And so I am super proud of all of you guys and grateful that you are with us in this busy time. Um, Honoring your time is super important to us. As I said, carving it out is harder than ever. So honoring your time is important. So I want to go ahead and kick off and get us started. December, our theme for the month is reflection and goal setting. And this is actually the last official program of 2020. And when we were really reflecting on what our members and women and people need right now, it's to close out 2020 strong with some really tangible and practical, like it's important to get, focus in the mind, the reflection, but it's like, okay, and now what? Actionable steps to close out and do some planning and strategy to, as much as we can, be in control of the uncontrollable and what 2021 has ahead for us. It's like, let's focus on what we can control. And when we were really thinking about who the best person to help us with that, Alecia Huck, top of the list. I was like, we know exactly who to reach out to and call. So Alecia is incredible. I first was exposed to, Stacy has been doing some training with Alecia over the past year or longer. And I can't tell you how many times Stacy and I have had conversations about changes, advice, tangible things that we should be doing here at Rise. And she's like, Alecia is where this strategy idea came from the insight. So many of the things that have been transformational for us over the past year or so have come directly from Alecia Huck. So I'm so honored to introduce to you Alecia, and she has got a wonderful presentation that is going to be super practical and tangible and set everybody up for success in the year ahead.
Hi, ladies. It's so nice to see you. And I'm glad I'm not the only one who was chowing down. Like I actually clicked. So I know that we've all been in a million of these, but I want to start out by just letting you know that today is really for you. So however you want to participate is 100% fine. If you need to nosh while we're doing this, if you need your video screen on, if you are absolutely certain you need your video screen off, like whatever works for you, it's really about you. It's not for my ego or any of that. This is a time, like Kate was saying, it's not always easy to find space to actually stop and do reflection, right? How many of you had something else that you could be doing right now? Probably everybody, right? So, sometimes we show up because of the other people that are there. Sometimes we show up because of the topic. Sometimes we show up because we just don't want to do the other thing, right? Whatever you need to do today is 100% fine. So if you're completely dialed into me, then that's great. If something I say gets you thinking and you need to break off and just go down that road, whatever actually works best for you is what you should do today. Does that sound all right? Okay, good. And for those of you who are on video, I can see you and that's awesome. And it's very helpful when you nod your head because, virtual environments and all of that kind of stuff. And just so you know, I'm in Denver, Colorado right now, and you guys are facing my window that looks out over the gorgeous Rocky Mountains with their snow caps. And we have this gorgeous park right in front of my office. And once a year, this magical thing happens where the local rugby team has a huge tournament. So every now and then you look out and there's just like 50 rugby players practicing outside your window. It's a Diet Coke break built right into the building. It's a good place to be. All right, good. So I want to give you a little bit about what our intention is for today, okay? Intentions are really important. A lot of times we start meetings and we just sort of plow through them and we don't always think about what it is we're actually trying to accomplish. So some of my background, I actually work with a lot of fast growing companies. That's my specialty, helping them. How many of you know somebody who started a company and it was really good and it started getting big and the wheels kind of start coming off at a certain point, right? Like people problems start to creep in, efficiency problems. That's my jam. So most of the people that I work with don't have a lot of time and they're pretty resource scarce. So I'm very much known for what is practical, what is simple, and what really does make a difference. So one of the things that makes a huge difference when you're running meetings is to be very clear about what your intention is. What do you actually want to produce? And those of you who know a lot about brain science, you know that your brain is this pretty magical thing, and it will go find whatever it is that you're looking for or do its best, right? Like, you know how when you buy a new car, you see that car everywhere? That's your reticular activating system getting riled up. So what we want to do is make sure that we set a very clear intention so that your brain automatically and naturally will focus on that. So the intention that we have for today, let me start out by saying that human beings are not good at endings, but we need them really badly. So if you can picture, some of you might be sports fans, right? A Super Bowl or a World Series where they win the World Series, they win the big game, and then that's it. There's no party, there's no parade, there's no high fives. They just literally wake up the next day and go start practicing again. That would be weird, wouldn't it? Right? But how many of you in your business, I work with a lot of engineering groups. They might have a project that takes 1.5 years to finish, takes all hands on deck. Everybody has touched it. Everybody's contributed to it. And yet the day that it finally goes out the door, nobody says anything. It's just, oh, that one's done. Check that off the list. And then they roll right into the next project. You guys, human beings need endings. That's one of the reasons it's so natural to set new resolutions at the end of a year or at the beginning of a new year. But we need to do endings really well in order to set ourselves up. Because what most people do is just kind of roll from one thing into the next. And it doesn't really matter if you're carrying good baggage or bad baggage. You're carrying baggage. You guys ever had a day or a week or, I don't know, a 2020 where your head was so full that sometimes it was hard to even remember what you went into the kitchen for? Like, it turns out nothing can really be exhausting too, right? There's just been a lot. There's been a lot out there in the world and a lot for most people to deal with internally. So what we want to do today, our intention is we want to set you guys up to learn a new tool that you can use for yourself or with teams to help you complete powerfully. But the number one thing that we want to do today is give you a chance to actually complete 2020, to get the feelings and the thoughts and the good and the bad and the ugly out of your head so that you can enjoy the rest of your December and actually be present, however you're celebrating, whatever holidays you're celebrating. And that when you go to create for 2021, you're starting from a clean slate. Again, when people do goal setting, one of the mistakes that they make is they're goal setting in response to something that did or didn't go well the year before, did or didn't happen, what they liked or didn't like, right? And some of that is useful, but some of it isn't. And if you actually start with a fully clean slate, you're going to get much, much better results. Does that sound okay to you guys? Did your body kind of relax a little bit? Like, oh, you mean I could like be done with 2020? That would be fun. And I'm not one of those people who, I'm just a realistic optimist, right? So I've never been, I don't know, I find it ironic that people are like, oh, I can't wait for this year to be over, as somehow that's going to guarantee that on January 1st, it's all better, right? The truth is it's going to be some kind of continuation of what has been. And circumstances, as I know you all know, go up and down. It's how you interact with them that makes the difference, right? So 2021 can bring on whatever it wants to bring on. Our goal is to get you centered and clear and through this year so that you can look with fresh eyes. And then life is going to do what life is going to do. And you're going to keep showing up to get what it is you want and stay on your path. Okay? All right, good. So take a deep breath. All right, let me check my notes here. I want to make sure that I catch everything that I wanted to cover with you guys. Oh, we're doing so great. We're already through page 1 of 5. We're ninjas. Very, very good. We're ahead of the game. Give yourselves gold stars. Okay, so we do have a lot to do in the next 60 minutes, right? And I don't believe in having meetings feel rushed because so much of what we do already feels so rushed. So I want to set us up by saying that, you know, sometimes we have a little bit of Zoom fatigue because it's just not the same as being in the same room, right? Like I know Erin is new at Rise and she's got a whole new adventure starting with Edward Jones, right? And it's easier to connect with her if you're standing right next to her, right? Because right now she can't talk to all of you. She can't nudge you and ask you for a piece of paper, right? But the truth is, what has us have the experience of being connected to other people is two things: being present and being authentic. And when we're in person, it's just easier to do those things because we kind of fall into a rhythm more quickly with the people that we're with. So one of the keys for today that I would invite you to do, and again, participate however works for you, right? But to the extent that you can, be present and be willing to say how things really are for you. That makes a huge difference because we're trying to empty all that stuff out of your brain. But you should also know that whatever you say or don't say, whatever you share, whatever you don't share, whoever you get paired up with, all of that stuff is going to work itself out and be magically kind of perfect. You ever find that? Like you do one of these exercises and you're paired with somebody and you're like, oh God, not that person. Alecia looks obnoxious. Just too pretty. No, it's just the lighting, you guys. Look at this. I move you over here, not as cute. Our lighting is really good in the window of my office. I can't help it. That was funny. Like some people who've had their heads down were like, wait, what? Thank you, Melanie. I see your emoji. Okay. So you guys, be present, be authentic. Again, do this however it works for you. But what I would ask you is one thing: when you're paired up and you're separated into your room to work with a partner, even if you can't really bring yourself fully to that conversation, be present for them. Like really be present and listen for them. Does that sound fair? Okay. And if you're on a recording or you're going to be doing this later because you got to run your dogs to the groomers or whatever else is going on, it really works to have a partner to say this stuff out loud with. But if you all you can do is get it into a journal for yourself, that also does make a difference. Okay. So you're going to want 3 sheets of paper for today's exercise. You may or may not use them all, but it's nice to have a lot of space to write in because we're going to move really quickly through this. Okay. So oh, that's funny. I had notes about other fancy things about me I was supposed to tell you. Maybe later. Okay, so the exercise that we're going to do today is one of my favorites. It comes from a company called Culture Counts. And if you're looking for them, culturecounts.biz is their website, and Whitney Walpole is their CEO. She's a good friend of mine, and I have permission to use her exercise. We do different things, but kind of with the same group of entrepreneurs. And so this exercise comes from some work that Whitney's done, and then we mavericked it up a little bit. That's the name of my company, Maverick and Company. So the exercise that we're going to do is going to seem deceptively simple, but it's incredibly powerful. So you can do this with an individual, you could do it with a buddy, you could do it with an entire team of people. It's designed to help people think through what actually happened and get present to the emotional experience they had, so they can complete that, and that's what cleans the slate. And it's called wins, losses, lessons learned. So what you're going to do is, on one sheet at the very top, you want to put wins. On a second sheet, you want to put losses. And then on the third sheet, you want to put lessons learned. Ooh, it's so fancy. So wins, losses, lessons learned. Now, what we're going to do is go through each of these different categories one at a time. How many of you have already started doing your goal setting? Raise your hand. How many of you haven't done anything, and maybe you've never done goal setting before, or very little of it, or you mean to, but you never quite get to it as much as you want? Okay. Wherever you are in that process will be fine, okay? Today is going to be a little bit about reflection. So the way this works, I'll give you kind of the overview and then we'll dive in. The way this works is we're going to start with either wins or losses. And the key, if you're doing this with somebody else, is that you ask people to capture what felt like a win and what felt like a loss. So for example, if you do this with a group of people, sometimes what was a win for one person wasn't actually a win for another, right? Or have you ever had a win that everybody else was really proud of, but it was still disappointing and awful for you? Like it wasn't a win for you. Or sometimes things are both, right? So the key to this is giving people the freedom to put whatever actually felt like a win for them and whatever actually felt like a loss. Doesn't matter where you start, just matters that you do one category at a time. So we're going to pick whether we start with wins or losses, and we'll do each one separately, and then we'll revisit lessons learned. And as you go through and you document, it's okay, like if we're doing wins and you see some losses or some lessons learned, it's okay to throw those on that sheet of paper, okay? All right, so do you guys want to start with wins or do you want to start with losses? Where's your head at? Who wants to start with wins? I crushed it. Life is amazing. I'm a baller. I want to document that. All right, Jen and Kate, right? How many of you're like, let's get the losses out of my head? That would be better. We'll start with the ugly. You want to start there? Okay, good. All right. So what I'm going to have you do, I'm only going to give you about 4 minutes, you guys. You don't have to document everything that was a loss. Okay, we're just looking for critical mass. If you want to go back later, like you still feel a little riled up about it and do more work, you can definitely do that. But for this exercise, I'm only going to give you 4 minutes. If you want to narrow your focus, you could narrow just down to your professional losses. Okay, and I know for many of us that bled into our personal lives, all right? So I'm going to give you 4 minutes. What I want you to do is just zone into your own brain and write down whatever comes up that felt like a loss for you. And if it belongs on the loss column and the win column, that's okay. Put it in both, okay? And go. It's okay if you want to look at your calendar to maybe get present to what was going on last year in January. All right.
I have a question.
Yes.
Is it just professional losses or professional and personal?
You can do both if you'd like. If you feel like you might need to focus in to save time or to be able to really dig in, then I would just focus on professional for now.
Got it.
Yeah. But if you're doing this with a partner after this call or you're listening to this recording, I like to get it all out because the categories we have are kind of artificial. Okay. So think about things, maybe goals that you had last year that you forgot about because, you know, global pandemic, a little bit of pivot, right? Maybe there were some people you had to let go of. Maybe you just meant to be more even-minded, right? You got all spiky and crazy halfway through. So think about your actual results that you got, that you didn't get. Maybe there were partners that let you down, or it was a loss because you watched other people struggle. People who had been in business with you, maybe you lost clients. Think about how you performed for you. Did you show up the way you wanted to show up? There were times when you didn't. Maybe you got sucked into the quarantine quagmire and just had some non-productive months or weeks or days. And you have about 2 more minutes. Think about people, relationships, anything you wanted to do that you didn't even get done or you forgot about till today. Maybe it was something you were looking forward to, like a big conference that got canceled. You were all set to shine, or an opportunity that was going to be yours that got taken away because it got canceled. Think about the way you showed up. Think about the way you didn't. Things you wanted but didn't get. Things you tried really hard to accomplish but missed. You got about 1 more minute. And anything that felt like a loss to you, put it on the sheet of paper. Even if it seems small, even if it seems stupid. If it hurt, if it didn't feel great, if it made you sad, it's in your brain. And it's useful to get it on that sheet of paper and out of your brain so you can put a bow tie on it and leave it in 2020. The past belongs in the past. This is part of how we put it where it goes. Okay, so start to wrap that up now. Remember, it's okay if you don't get everything down on that sheet of paper. You can always expand on this later, and it's the big stuff that moves the needle, right? So even if we get you 60% of the way cleared out, you are in a winning state to create, okay? All right, so in a minute, I'm gonna have Kate put you into a paired room. So you'll have one friend that you're with, okay? You may know that person, you may not. You're only gonna get 7 minutes between the two of you. So here's what there is to do, you guys. Let's say Kate and I were paired up. We get into the room, you say a very quick hello. This is the part where you wanna be fully present and you wanna let yourself be genuine. If I'm sharing my losses with Kate, I'm doing that not so that Kate can then repeat back all of my losses and like, you know, win the quiz. There will be no quiz. Kate doesn't have to memorize my losses. She doesn't need to understand everything about them, right? If all I said to Kate was, Kate, COVID really hit some of my clients hard, and I was in a program I was really excited about, and then some of them had to drop out, and I'm still sad about that. She doesn't know what the program was. She doesn't know really what I'm talking about, but she can get that I'm sad, right? She could get it if I just said, I feel a little guilty because I didn't get those people where I wanted to get them. Like we didn't get all the way across the finish line. So even though I couldn't control it, I'm still sad and I feel a little guilty and weird about that I didn't get them across the finish line. Do you guys see how she doesn't need the details in order to get where I'm coming from? Okay, it's more about you giving it away verbally, okay? So I'm gonna have her put you in your rooms in just a second, and when you get there, be intentional and watch the clock. You'll each have 3.5 minutes. So get your big stuff out. If you get confused, just go down your list, right? You're not trying to give it all the detail, you're just trying to give the experience of it to another person, okay? And if you're the listener, when they're talking, be fully present. Don't try to fix it. Don't try to change it. Don't try to make them feel better about it. Just get it. That's how it was for them. Okay? All right, great. Any questions? Okay, good. All right, Kate, would you put everybody in rooms? And remember, you get 7 minutes total, so watch your clock.
Alecia, so are we strictly sharing and like you said, no advice, no nothing, just literally we share and then we stop? Okay.
Yes, it's just so the other person gets it. So really great point, Vicki. No advice, no making them feel better, no, you know what I mean? You can get it and you can empathize, wow, or like that, but that's it, okay? Great. Yourselves again. I just want you're all smiling. We just did losses. Aren't you supposed to be like sad and stuff? I just want to hear from a couple of people. How was that for you? What'd you share? What'd you hear? Like who has something they can, because that helps us level set as a group. Yeah. Michelle.
I need more than 7 minutes. That's my new thing.
Me too.
Isn't it funny? You're like, I don't have time for this. But then the minute you sit down to do it, you're like, I need more. I need more. I'm gonna make more.
Yeah, totally.
Very good. Somebody
It
else.
was very sad. I was with Sydney and I realized hearing her and I was like, oh my God, I nearly got tears in my eyes. So,
Yeah.
and I'm very positive and now I realized I don't allow space for grieving.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you, Alecia. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. You guys, do you see though? We don't do this in business. We don't do this with our teams. We just roll into the next thing and you're still carrying all of that stuff somewhere inside your head and your heart. It's bananas.
I would just add that I thought what was interesting is that sometimes, you know, what's going on professionally like melds into personal and then the both. And, you know, so while you have a loss that feels like a business loss, it's also kind of something personal. And so I thought we didn't have enough time to kind of get into it, but I think that, being able to provide a platform to share this was really helpful. So thank you.
I love it. Okay, good. We're going to move on now.
Okay,
Oh,
I just real quick. I just want to say something because I this was really good for me. I'm not a good listener all the time, so being present was intentional. I literally had to be intentional about listening. But when I tell you the joy that I felt from really being present and listening, I was all in with her, with Jana, and so I literally felt it. So I just want to say thank you for that.
Oh, I love that.
I second that. That
guys,
listening was a wonderful experience and we got through.
Yes. And you guys, do you see, like, we're on a Zoom call, but now you feel connected and alive, being present and being authentic, right? Actually listening is a gift. It is an authenticity. You have to be vulnerable to do it because you're like really letting them share all their stuff, right? And when you tell yourself, I'm not going to comment, it's not my job to coach, I could just get it, then it's easier to be present because you know what you're there for, right? Okay, great. Now we're going to do the fun one, okay? And I know, I can just tell a lot of you are high performers and you're not good at being acknowledged or like celebrating because you don't need that, right? You're competitive or whatever. Baloney, everybody needs celebration. Every team that I work with, that's one of the first things that we put in is celebration because a lot of high performers forget that. They're just busy feeling bad about the next thing already, okay? So we're gonna pause. I'm gonna give you about 4 minutes and I want you to just think about what felt like a win this year. And remember, it's okay if they're small. It's okay if they're big. It's okay if it was somebody else's win, but it felt like yours, right? This is the time when you wanna get present to the stuff that went right, the stuff that went well, or just maybe it went horrible and you feel like a hero because you didn't strangle one of your children, Homer Simpson style. Those are victories too, okay? So the question is, what felt like a win? And whatever your brain comes up with is gonna be good enough, okay? Your brain knows what it wants you to focus on. So just what felt like a win? I'll give you about 3.5 more minutes. And I'll give you a couple of prompts in case you're like, I don't know, I didn't win at anything. Baloney, malarkey, liar. If you're friends with me, you learn to celebrate, okay? So think about professional wins, right? Maybe there was a client and you kept them. Maybe you had to renegotiate the deal, but you kept that cash coming in. For a lot of us, man, if you're employed and you have food in your pantry, you won. It was a good year. Some of you maybe survived COVID. Some of you maybe have avoided catching it. Well done, right? Maybe it's a win that you finally had some hard conversations that you didn't know you really needed to have, or you've been avoiding, right? Maybe you were generous when it wasn't easy to be generous with your time or your resources or your patience and generosity. Maybe it was a win for you that you haven't burned your computer or thrown it through a window while you tried to figure out Zoom. I'm not saying that's a personal experience, but that's one of my victories. Maybe you're starting out, maybe you pivoted in your business and you're doing some new things. And they're scary and hard and you're doing them anyway. Maybe you're proud of yourself. One of mine this year that's a win is when the world slowed down, I slowed down too. That is not in my nature. I got real lazy. I read a ton of books last spring. I've seen a good portion of Schitt's Creek. Like, I did some lazy stuff, right? One of my wins this year is I remembered how to put on makeup because I literally forgot over the spring. Like, wait, which eyeshadows do I use? Okay. Anything that felt like a win to you. And again, it can be a win around you. People in your company, people in your family, people in your community. If that felt like a win, it's a win. You can have as many wins as you felt like you had. Don't forget to include things you're proud of yourself for, things that were hard, but you made it through. Sometimes the losses list, the fact that you're still standing and that you don't cry every day for 5 hours, that's a victory, right? Maybe you spent some time crying every day for 5 hours and you're like, but now I'm down to 4, also a victory. The more you celebrate the good stuff, the more good stuff you notice and the more good stuff you get. Most of us are high-level problem solvers. We're good at spotting what's off, what's wrong, where we failed, what didn't work. It's really useful to pay attention to the good stuff. Okay. All right, so wrap that up. And in about 15 seconds, I'm going to have Kate flip you to a room. You might get a new partner. You might have the same partner. That is the perfect partner for you. And again, you're going to listen to just get it. Okay, so you can do a silent clap. You can woo woo for it, right? You can get excited with them. In fact, I would encourage you to do that. But whatever your personal way of receiving that information and being happy and sort of just being there to celebrate with them will be just fine. Okay, but you're there to just hear it and get it. And some of them, as they say them, you'll realize that's a victory for you too. And that's kind of a magical, fun thing as well. Okay, it's okay to add to your list as you go, but mostly stay focused on them, okay? Watch the clock. Of course, you won't have enough time. Make sure you get your big ones out there, all right? Kate, you want to throw them to their rooms? Any question, anybody? All right. Like, plus I won. I did all the losses. Here's everything that sucked, but I'm still great.
Wow, you know what? When we were going to, wait, I'm sorry, wait, okay. I timed it, so I had to make sure I put it,
I love efficiency and organization. You will not get a complaint from me.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Welcome back, everybody. Some of you look a little rattled. You're like, I don't know. Was that okay? It felt like bragging. I don't know. Is that all right? I don't. Okay, ladies, it's 12:13. Okay, so I just want to have one or two people share really briefly something that came out of that so we can kind of level set that for the group. So who has something that's like, ooh, I want to say this. How was that for you to focus on wins?
I'm a real
All right, go ahead.
Go ahead.
You got to raise your hand so I can call on you. Is that Stephanie?
Okay.
Wait, who's talking? Yes.
Nana can go. I think one thing that came up was the more I started talking about my wins, I realized, oh my gosh, it wasn't so bad after all. I've had more wins than I remembered.
Yes.
So it was good to go and kind of count my blessings and see what still comes up.
Oh, that's perfect. I love it. One other person.
Well, I was going to say, you know, God gave me an excess amount of serotonin. So I just don't get depressed in spite of my isolation, in spite of everything. This was wonderful to share wins. And I've said this to other groups, you guys at Rise are the top of the list. I have met such wonderful people. You have really contributed to my wins.
Yay! Oh, Donna, way to wrap it up. Well played.
That
was wonderful.
You guys, wins are contagious. And if any of you listening to this are too hard on yourself, high performer, you roll from one thing to the next thing to the next thing, it's even more important to stop and take care of the wins. Okay? So we're going to do, so it's wins, losses, lessons learned. And as you've gone, I'm sure you've been capturing some of your lessons learned. I'm going to leave you to do that separate from this call. The maverick part that we've done to this culture counts exercise is one of my favorite things, okay? It's about acknowledgement. Most of us don't do acknowledgement really well, and we're really terrible at receiving it. So today, by brute force, I'm going to give you a chance to do that and experience it anyway, okay? So acknowledgement, you guys, it works when it's specific, when it's personal, and when you're fully present. Okay? So if you have colleagues, if you have children, if you have a spouse, if you have friends, if you have relatives that you want to deepen your relationship with them, and by the way, completely alter your experience of life. If you haven't noticed, sort of the narrative that's taken hold about 2020 is that it's the worst year ever. But if you look, there were miracles in 2020. There were beautiful things in 2020. There were extraordinary accomplishments in 2020. And there was a lot of crappy, weird stuff. It's actually like that every damn year. Just for the record. So you get to pick your narrative about 2020. You get to say how that goes. And one of the things you could add to your world is acknowledgement. So Michelle, would you be willing to be my guinea pig and do a little acknowledgement?
Sure, I'm really good at giving them though.
I know.
Not good at receiving them.
I know, that's why you're gonna receive now. So, so Michelle ended up with Kate and I in our room. Okay, so you guys, what you're gonna do is, let me back up a step, okay? I want you to just look down your lists, your wins and your losses, and pick 1 or 2 things you'd like to be acknowledged for. You can be very brave and pick the thing that really matters to you. You can stay in the shallow end and pick something that's kind of safe, that's not too personal. But pick 1 thing you want to be acknowledged for, maybe 2 things, because we're coming to the end here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to practice with Michelle, okay? And she's going to do her best to sit still and accept the acknowledgement. And then the way that you do that is you say, thank you. And then you shut up. Okay? So Michelle, what is 1 thing you would like to be acknowledged for from 2020?
So I think the biggest thing on this wins list is that I've been in business almost 20 years. And even with 2020 and the 2008 crisis, I've now been able to sustain a business for almost 20 years. And as a mom, and as a single mom at times. So I'm a survivor.
Okay, good. All right, so I'm going to acknowledge Michelle this time, right? Be specific, be personal, and be present, okay? So Michelle, as much of this you can let in, that's great. And if you can't, it's fine. Okay, we all get it. And the rest of you could listen and hear this acknowledgement also of you where it fits. Does that make sense? Okay, so Michelle, it is not a small thing to build a business and keep it alive over all that time. I have no idea how you did that with kids at home, but I'm pretty sure you worked really hard to make them feel special and loved and important. I'm sure there were tons of late nights and early mornings and no sleep and the stress of trying to make sure you had enough cash in the bank, taking care of other people and making sure they had cash in the bank, and probably a zillion problems that none of us will ever get. So I acknowledge you for being an entrepreneur and a mom and a badass and being generous, probably being too hard on yourself sometimes, working too hard sometimes, not taking enough time for yourself sometimes, but like all the different things that you had to go through that nobody will ever know, to be somebody who struck out and built the business and created opportunities for other people and built something you're proud of, and then survived 2020 and made it even better because of it.
Thank you. And could you record that and send it to my husband? Because I'd like to hear that from him too.
Yes. Now here's the secret
Thank
about
you.
acknowledgement, you guys. You can, now remember, she asked for it. She told me what to acknowledge her for, right? I filled in some blanks. That's okay. It's even if you ask for it, did it still feel real, Michelle?
I was like, yes, this is exactly what I needed to hear.
Okay.
Now I need to hear it more.
Yes. So again, you could give it to yourself. You could do an exercise with a buddy once a month where you stop and have them acknowledge you, right? Okay. So we're going to take just 4 minutes. Okay. So Kate, I'm throwing a curveball here. Okay. What you want to do is when you get with your partner in your room, don't tell them the long version. Okay. Michelle's was almost the long version, but it was perfect because my God, right? Just tell them very specifically, here's what I want you to acknowledge me for. Being brave, being smart, being a hard worker, making it through, whatever it is that you're proud of, right? Write it down tell it to them, and then just listen. This can literally be 15 seconds each, okay? And then your job is just to sit still and let it in. And you can be acknowledged for anything you want to be acknowledged for, okay? So you can get this right, you can get it wrong, it can go well, it can go poorly. It's all okay, we're just practicing, okay? All right, good. Kate, throw them into some rooms. You get 4 minutes, so 2 minutes each, no big stories. You're gonna be tempted to do that. Don't do that. Okay, go. We only had a little bit of time, right? And how like how many of you just feel nourished? You're like, whoa, I'm so good. I don't know if I should cry or take a nap or like start a new company. I don't even know. So that should get, our intention was to have you be complete with 2020, okay? How many of you feel pretty doggone complete? Okay. If you don't, then what there is to do is go back and just be more thorough. And you can do that with a buddy, you could do that with a group, but that tool, I want to acknowledge that it's not just about doing this once. You could do that once a month, once a quarter. I have a buddy, we get together and do it once a month. We just complete the month. So you're not carrying all that baggage forward, right? Okay. Don't forget to fill out your lessons learned. Okay. And I just want to give a couple people, and you want to be really sharp about this, you guys. It's not the long explanation, it's the short one. So just a couple people, I want to give 2 or 3 people a chance. Like, what'd you get out of this call? What are you going to use? Like, what are you going to take with you? Just one simple little thing you want to share. It'll help the group level set, and then I'll wrap us up, okay?
And one thing I just want to, before we start in real quick, because I know some people are going to have to log off on time. This is being recorded, and as on Rise Digital, either today or tomorrow, this will be available. You can revisit, you can watch this 100 times, do it with your spouse, do it with your team. It's available to you anytime. So be sure to check it out. Awesome. Who wants to go next? Kristen, you had your hand up.
Raise your hand. Kristen.
Yeah, I got community out of this, which was amazing. I met met a few new people, but saw a bunch of new faces, and I'm looking forward to learning more about you guys. You guys have amazing things to share today, so thank you.
Love it. Who else? Raise your hand.
I get to connect and interact with all of the great St. Louis Rise gals who I otherwise would not get to interact with. You guys show up a little bit more than us Denver girls, so maybe I'll have to ping them to start showing up a little more, because St. Louis always represents, but it's so good. And I got to meet Erin, new Rise member right there. She just is joining today. So anyway, it's been great. Thanks.
It is a contest, Mile High. Suck it up. Let's get this done. Okay, good.
I will.
Jana. Hang on,
I was just going to say, what I got out of is seeing some faces that when we used to go to in-person Rise that I haven't seen, and my friends, Adrian, Sarah, Vicky, I'm looking across. So, and Kate, obviously. So it was so good to see them, because a few of them I haven't seen in like a year. So hello, friends. Good to see you all.
Well, you guys, I want to say thank you so much for being here. It's always flattering when people want to hear what you have to say. And I really am I'm just super inspired all the time by the people I bump into at Rise. It seems like good people always find each other, right? So no matter who shows up, you're like, well, I don't know, I could probably be best friends with Stephanie or Sarah or Vicky or Adrian. Like, it'd be easy, right? Nena and I would totally hang out all the time if we lived in the same city and there wasn't a global pandemic and I didn't already have 15 best friends. So, I feel really blessed. Like, I really love what I do. The work that we do with entrepreneurs is super fun. And for me, part of what I feel so blessed about is that I feel like it's a huge blessing to be able to leave a legacy in life where you actually helped people make the world a little bit better, right? Like their trajectory changed because you bumped into them. Mm-hmm. So for all the good that you guys are going to go out and do, for all the struggles you're going to overcome, for all the ways that you're going to be awesome in the next year, I would just encourage you to take the time to complete things, to celebrate things, to speak this stuff out. If today was useful, then get a little gang together and do a longer version. You could do a virtual New Year's Eve party, and this is a magical thing to do. You can do this with little kids because they get it and they have all kinds of things they want to tell you that they haven't probably told you. If you bribe them, you might even be able to get teenagers to do it. So the quality of your life is always given by the kind of people that you spend time with and the books that you read. So it's so fun to meet you guys. Please feel free to find me on LinkedIn and connect up. And if I can ever be supportive, I'm always happy to help out another Rise buddy. And let's have 2021 be awesome.
Wait, thank you, Alecia,
Thank you
so much. Thanks everyone for being here.
Nice work, everybody.
Thank you, Alecia.
Take care, you guys.